Hello, everybody. It's more than a joy speaking to each and every one of you in your beautiful country of Ghana. I truly apologize. I cannot be there in Ghana today to enjoy the joy and the fun of Ghana. And Ghana means a lot to me. It's like second home to me. I remember great experiences moving in around Kolebu area of Ghana, Greater Accra area of Ghana, and being in the University of Ghana, doing a lot with a couple of friends, visiting friends in the University of Ghana. It's always wonderful. It's always a great pleasure. And please, I'm not here to talk about jollof rice, really. I'm not here to talk about jollof rice, but I must have to say, to be politically correct, Ghana has quite a great array of taste when it comes to jollof rice. You know, the Ghana jollof rice, Charlie, it's quite good. It's quite good. I'm saying that as a Nigerian, and I'm not saying anything more than that. My name is Rufai Oseni. I'm a thought leader. And when I say I'm a thought leader, what I do is I challenge norms and conventions all around the world. It's a shame I couldn't be there with you in your great country as we have this talk. And I pray and I hope that this is going to help you a whole lot. As I said before, I'm a thought leader. I challenge conventions and I try to look at possibilities. Ghana is a great country. Ghana is a great land. Ghana has a lot of great potential. And I must have to tell you something historical about Ghana. Ghana is so great. Many years ago, like 300 AD, the Arabian traders that first came to the western part of Africa, this was what they said of Ghana. They said Ghana was so blessed in gold and mineral resources that the dogs in the streets in Ghana, and Ghana was said to be the name of the high chiefs then, the dog in the streets of that empire wore gold chains on their neck. Little wonder the country was called Gold Coast. It is a country that is blessed and has a lot of capacity and potential. And you see, the blessing that Ghana has is something that will be tapped in this generation, and it will be tapped by you because you have the capacity to tap it. And I will tell you this. If you want to title my speech, if you want to give it a title, you can give it Ghana. But I'll title it The Pathway to Growth. I will call it Ghana High, The Pathway to Growth. So, one of the greatest local joints in Lagos is run by Ghanaians. It's called Ghana High. That place has been there since the 1970s. The woman, 3-4 generations now, still there in Lagos Island. She has the best ewa going you can ever think of, and the best, of course, jollof rice. And it's called Ghana High. So I take a lot of inspiration from that food joint. Ghana High, you know, the path to growth and development. But for Ghana to be able to fully achieve its potentials, I must have to say some very strong points. And I'm just going to go through a couple of points. Number one, you must understand that the most important resource in Ghana today is not the gold, is not the oil, is not the other mineral resource, is not other things that have been discovered in Ghana that brings them some foreign direct investment. I hear the foreign direct investment as of last year was pegged at over $800 million. It's not the natural resource in the ground that brings the foreign direct investment. I submit to you today that the most important resource in Ghana today, as we speak, as a country, in the great continent of Africa, is you. The best thing Ghana has to offer is you. You might not realize it, you might not understand it, you might not believe in it because you've heard a lot, but I submit to you today that the most important thing and the best thing about Ghana is its people, and that is you. And you have what it takes to change Ghana. So the earlier you start to understand and realize that, the better it is for you. That Ghana will only change unless you change. That Ghana will only take its rightful place among the Committee of Nations unless you take your rightful place. That Ghana will only unite unless you unite. And that's why, very strongly, Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah did say, when they formed the African Union in the 60s, he did say profoundly in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, He said, and I quote, that we are not here to talk about the unity of Africa, but we're here to reiterate that if Africa doesn't unite, there are dire consequences for it. And you are that cardinal point. There is a very strong understanding you need to have that you are the future of Ghana. A lot of African countries are just like Ghana, young population. In fact, it is said that in the next 5-10 years, by 2030, Africa will have 500 million young people under the age of 30. And you have that capacity. I know you might have concerns, but please do not forever forget for once that you have what it takes to redeem your country if you truly understand. Another point I'm going to make very strongly is the point of the distinction between a principle and a principle. We know African continent is run by the concept of a principle. There is always a big man. There is always a strong man. That's why you had the likes of Kasavubu in Congo. You had the likes of some other African leaders, Idi Amin Dada, that thought everything was all about them. You had the likes of Mobutu Sese Seko Kukunge Nuwazabanga, that thought everything was all about him. In fact, it was said that Mobutu Sese Seko Kukunge Nuwazabanga was richer than his country called Congo. And if you go from Cape to Cairo across the continent, you have African leaders that feel everything is all about them. But I submit to you today that something that will make this continent grow will be when people start to understand that there's a difference between the principal man in government and the principle of governance. So let me tell you strongly, what is the principle of governance? Fairness, equality, hope and aspiration being met, provision for the people, and helping the people to realize their God-given talent is the principle at which governance is based. I submit to you that it is a no deal to think that any government could run by the strength of the principle, not the principle. The principle at which every government runs is enshrined in the Constitution of Ghana. And we must start to create those distinctions if you want the continent to grow and your country to grow. Another very important point I will make is that of the leader and the leadership. We must have to start understanding that the leadership makes the leader. And the culture of the leadership is reflective of the leader. The reason why there's corruption all over Africa is because the leadership culture in the whole of Africa is a corrupt culture. So that's why even if one leader tries to change it, it might be a very difficult task because the leadership culture is that of corruption. And until we change the leadership culture, development will not come to Africa. Until we start to change our leadership mentality across board, development will not come to Africa. If we have a coherent leadership culture, a corruption-free and an equal society naturally takes its right of place. But what do we have in the African context? Because we have a leadership culture of corruption. And that's why you see that it is not only one man that is corrupt. It is an entire leadership in the system of Africa. And except we pull that down, the country wouldn't move forward. We should also not forget that every leader emerges from the citizenship. No leader falls from the sky. Every leader emerges from the citizenship. So a leader is a representation of the quality of the citizenry. And let me tell you, as a citizen, it is an obligation you have to demand that the leader does right, because the leader is a reflection of your intention and your counsel. So something very important you must understand is that except you start to hold the leadership accountable as a citizenry, then the leadership will not do what is right, because the leader that makes the leadership is a product of the citizenry. Another very important point I'd like to say is that trade is the panacea for social mobility. Trade is the panacea for social mobility. Except you start to trade, you will always be aided. And a man that is aided will live his life on aid and support. The reason why Africa is what it is today, I submit to you, is because Africa has constantly been skewed on the balance of trade and they have faced aid. So no matter what you do today, please, being the future of Ghana, learn to trade your skills for foreign exchange. Learn to trade your skills. Learn to trade. There are various forms of trade, media trade, intellectual property trade. Let's learn to trade. Today, Amazon became a $1 trillion company. I know you have the capacity to make the next $1 trillion company from Ghana. It is possible. Trade is not